Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show, it's about dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Republic of Sarah. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. We're picking up after, the events of last episode with Weston's article going out. I guess I didn't realize, a lot more time had passed, not necessarily just over the course of last episode, but Weston had already been there for a while. Because I was thinking Sarah had enough time before because it's right, she got a preview. I thought it'd be a situation where before the article actually went live, she still have enough time to kind of work around it. But it's no, the article went up and Grover tried to make her feel better. It's nope, people start noticing, calling her chairman, Cooper and everything, keeping up the whole dictatorship thing. So it's she needed to change this immediately. She's even said she always meant for there to be a check and balance, but she was always doing so much that she never really had an opportunity to set things up, but she needs to, or her name's going to continue being run through the mud, because all this is going to do is do bad press for Greylock. Yeah, it looks bad on her, but it looks just as bad on Greylock with that dictator being associated with the leader of this, new independent country. So basically, they're holding elections and stuff like that. She even calls Weston out, but even saying it was, as she said, harsh but fair. And even he recognizes yeah, you tell me to go smoke on a tailpipe, harsh but fair. So they're doing the last little bit of what's left. They have to handle things this way, in person and stuff like that, rather than just mailing them in, because it's part of the charter, which Weston was yeah, but the charter also said basically a regular dog couldn't have any carnal desires towards a noble person's dog or whatever. And I'm that's one of those weird old school rules. No, there's still what's good. It's, I remember, I want to say it happened in high school, or maybe it happened later in life. I do remember watching something or someone where someone had looked up old rules that still technically apply. I forgot what country, what state it was, but there was a state that had a weird rule where you can't legally eat ice cream in the backseat or something. It was something weird like that. I'm butchering it, but stuff like that. So obviously Sarah's the moment we get these this all settled is then I'll work together with all the new officials to, get rid of the charter and find, a new backbone for everything. Because, you got AJ running, you got Corinne running. Corinne's running because AJ convinced her to. Danny's running, which is kind of a big middle finger to Sarah and kind of to everyone. Because it's especially because he's I grew up in Greylock. I just want to kind of return the favor. It's you hate Greylock. More so than anything, it's just obviously bad memories associated with his mom. But it's kind of interesting no one pushed him on that, because I guess that would have been a little below the belt to be you don't care about Greylock. But it's right, he is still helping out regardless. So he is kind of living there. All that matters is having a billing address, even though he doesn't actually have a house and he's just living in a hotel. As long as he has a mailing address, then he's I guess that qualifies as being a resident of Greylock. But it's not just them. Liz is running. Of course she is. Making this opportunity to still be talking mad smack to Sarah. And Sarah's just okay. It's just once again, Liz has, I brought it up in the first episode that, Danny's boss kind of got set up as, the villain. Granted, we haven't had any interactions with her. It's nah, Liz has taken the villain role. She went from, villain-esque last episode where it's I get where some of your points are. It's just you don't have to be such a dick about it. And then she's a major dick in this episode, and you're man, you went to, enemy numero uno, real quick. I mean, come on. I was you kind of suck as a human being, because even, Danny's she's an ass. She was born an ass, she is an ass, and she'll most likely die an ass. Literally everyone in town knows she is one. She's the only one that just doesn't realize it, because I think probably in her mind she'll probably think well, me being an ass is just, people don't understand. I don't know. Maybe given enough time, Liz will shift in our minds a little bit. I don't know. I don't see that happening, but we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, everyone's got their own baggage to deal with. AJ's dealing with the whole Alexis thing because, she found a pregnancy test and stuff like that. And Corinne's talked to her, but then AJ's fine, I will. And she tries to contact Alexis, but she can't get in contact with Alexis. Well, ultimately, she ends up running into Alexis, And it turns out like, right, why? It's like, right, you were snooping. It's like, no, I was cleaning up and I saw it. And it's like, but the fact is, I was waiting for you to tell me, but you didn't. And she was trying to say like, wait, there, like, because immediately at that point, my mom was like, because we immediately find out like, she's like, well, congratulate, AJ's like, well, congratulations on the pregnancy. And then he's like, wait, what? William's like, wait, Alexis, you're pregnant. It's like, oh, I was like, oh, yikes. He didn't know. Because at first I was kind of thinking like, my immediate thought was like, Alexis didn't tell him and she didn't tell AJ because she's trying to figure it out herself. I immediately was like, right, if she's not telling William, because there's no way you're going to be able to hide that forever, but I'm assuming you were looking for other options. I was about to say like adoption, but I'm like, no, like obviously you have to wait for the pregnancy to come full term. So I was like, it definitely seemed like it was going to be potentially, at least I thought she was considering an abortion route. She'd actually already done it. She just hadn't talked to William or AJ about. Well, obviously she couldn't tell, because for her, like, her marriage was already falling apart, so she didn't know, like, I don't really want to be bringing a baby into this. So that's also the complicated thing. Maybe at the end of it, like, if things were different, maybe she would have left William and been with AJ. I don't know. But now she's trying to save whatever she can of her marriage. She confronts AJ. Yeah, because AJ even said it like, right, I kind of have a, like, you know, my temper can get the best of me sometimes. And, you know, she tried to apologize to Alexis, but Alexis isn't really listening. But, you know, she explains like, right, I was falling for you. Like, I thought this whole thing was like super casual, but then it's like, no, I want to be with you. I want to kind of make this something, you know, not just kind of an affair. I want this to be like an us thing, but like the moment like I found out about the baby and everything, it felt like you were slipping away from me, and I just let my anger, you know, my jealousy kind of get the best of me. And obviously it's a thing of, it is Alexis's body and decision, like who she decides to tell. But that's like the sad, like the whole reason why this came about is because of the lies. Like it's a thing of like, I don't think Alexis owed AJ an explanation. Like, maybe AJ could have, like, granted, AJ could have handled that way better, because what did Corinne keep saying? Like, talk to her. And, you know, the reason why Alexis was avoiding talking to her, because she was trying to process things. Like, you know, I wanted some time to myself before I was going to talk to you about it, but I just needed time to myself. It's just like, it's just a lot of things went wrong. Like that, like, I think it's just this sad byproduct of just there being so many secrets and lies that, you know, it's just like, there's just so much that had to be kept quiet, that it's like, it's almost like inevitable that things would kind of blow up the way they did. So Alexis is leaving with William. It's like I said, trying to repair what little is of her marriage. So you know, she's ending things with AJ, and it's like, you know, AJ's like, I'm sorry, you know, but, you know, for Alexis that's not good enough. But I'm like, I don't like, it's because it's a complicated thing. Like, I don't want to blame AJ all in this either, because she didn't know the circumstances, but also, like, Alexis, like, right, of course you didn't know. You just blabbed your mouth, like, going off half-cocked. But once again, it's like, you're also put her in this situation by having this relationship full of secrets and lies and stuff like that, because she kind of wanted more. It was kind of already pretty obvious she wanted more, but that's the thing of, like, you kind of wanted to, you know, keep everything to a certain extent. Like I said, it seems like she might have been in a position where she was going to leave William to be with AJ. We'll never know, because things aren't working out. But it's like, that's pretty crushing. And she finally opens up to Sarah about it, too, of like, right, what's going on there? Like, yeah, I was having an affair with Alexis. And, you know, in totality, it seems like this has been going on for a couple months. So, but, Sarah's got her own thing to deal with, because her and Grover, like, Grover, you can immediately tell was kind of getting, like, I even picked it up last episode, but definitely this episode, him looking at Weston's like, does that guy bother you? It's like, no, he's fine. And it's just like, you know what, you need a break. Like, when's the last time you took a break? It's like, right, like, the thing that we did, like, the day before Danny showed up. So she's been kind of working overtime and everything. So now that, you know, she's invested so much time into Greylock, it's her project, it's her baby, that, you know, not working on it just kind of makes her feel a little antsy. Like, you know, kind of the control freak inside of her, kind of losing control a little bit, having it slipped away from her. So Grover wants to do something special. And, but he thinks, like, you know, it's because he was a little jealous, because it's like, right, you know, he told Sarah, like, just give me some time, you know, we'll figure this out. And so Grover tried to put together this whole special night for her, and it's like, are you really ready? But he's like, yeah, patience is gone, I've got to move on. Even saying that, it's like, yeah, I don't believe you, Grover. Like, you don't get over that. Like, once again, it's not like, oh, your relationship ended. That's one thing. That still takes a long time to get over. I say that from being in a position as a, the relationship that took me the longest to get over was as a relationship I was in from 15 to 18. It took me years to get over that relationship just because I'm the way I am too, and I kind of made that person my everything, and it backlash on me in a big way. It's a whole lot, but I know what it's like to, like, you don't bounce back from that. Some people can, some other people don't. I personally can't, but also it's like that was just a regular circumstance of we just broke up. Whereas with Grover, it's like, no, like, patience was taken from you. Like, you had to watch her, like, die, get sick and die. So, like, it's different. And still, it's only been, like, a year. It's because he does care for Sarah, and he was trying to, like, rush things. But Sarah's like, right, I should have known you weren't ready. I knew you weren't ready. I just wish that you were. And he's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, it's okay. Like, whoever that someone else is that you end up being with, that you're going to make them really happy. And he's like, someone else. Because the thing is, Sarah can't wait forever for Grover, especially because they've already crossed that line. There's no like, oh, we crossed this line a little bit, let's go back to being friends. It's like, that's the danger of being with your friend, even your best friend. Like, the moment you cross that line, that was even something she brought up in the beginning. She was scared of, like, losing her best friend. And, like, you can't put that genie back in the bottle now that now that the genie's out. So, like, they're probably going to try and maintain, like, their friendship, but things are still going to be weird and awkward. Like, obviously, like, Weston's super into her, and, like, them dating and stuff like that, that's just going to make Grover feel weird, so being around Sarah's going to be awkward, so that's just a whole complicated can of worms in itself, so that's sad. And you could see Grover beating himself up over it, because it's like, right, I care for Sarah a lot, and it's just not like I ruined something, like there's no future for us now, but also like I potentially ruined our friendship. But it's like I can't. I thought I was ready. I just can't get over patience. He thought he was ready to move forward when he's not. He didn't give himself enough time, which once again I know not different circumstances, but I understand like not giving yourself enough time because of a relationship. Once again, his circumstances was he lost her, so that's going to take even longer to get over. That pain is very different from, once again, a breakup, where it's just kind of like, right, you stay friends with someone after you've broken up, and that caused a lot more issues on my part, which I didn't express at the time, which I should have. Would have saved me a lot of heartache in the long run. Once again, not that significant other's fault or anything. It was a lot on my part. It's just growing pains when it comes to relationships and stuff, So, yeah, it's just kind of sad to see things the way they are. I think this was a necessary step for Grover. Like, it was necessary for this to happen, because I think now he is going, like, realizing, like, right, I do need help. So he is looking for a professional therapist. Like, he still said that he was going to find someone to talk to, but he hadn't. And I think this pushed him to be like, right, I really need to talk to somebody. I hope it isn't a situation of just so that he can be with Sarah. He's doing this, like, I think you can't do it for someone else's sake. It has to be for your sake. And I think it is for his sake. Because, like, right, like, I'm never going to be able to take steps forward. It doesn't have to be like a full-blown sprint, but just small steps. He's not even ready to take those small steps yet. He thought he was, but it's like he's going to need professional help with that to kind of deal with all of that. Like, the anger, the grief, all of it, So it's kind of a sad time for a lot of people. Like I said, AJ's kind of down, Grover's down because of that, and even Sarah is. But once again, Weston's kind of asking her out, which he's like, oh yeah, I've kind of knows how amazing you are since I first met you. So he's been into her for a while. Corinne, initially, like I said, she doesn't have much confidence in herself, but she's going to try her best. But then, like, Liz, when they're, like, having their debates and stuff like that, Liz having to be the ultimate snobby mean girl and bring up, like, oh, like, because Corinne talks about, like, because Liz is all about tradition. It's like, right, that's why we wanted independence, so Greylock can stay the way it is. But for Corinne, it's like, yeah, but if we let things stay the way they are, the world is evolving. We have to evolve with it, or we kind of get left behind in the dust. And then, like, Liz had to make a snide remark about, like, right, like, you being another statistic. I couldn't get the word out. Being a teen mom and everything, and it's like, oh, you're a mistake. And she's like, whoa, bitch, did you just call my son a mistake? Which even Liz has got to realize that was a lot. But the whole point was to kind of show, like, oh, you want someone like this to be your representative, blah, blah, blah. Luckily, Danny was there to calm her down. She was initially going to, like, bail out, but Danny stopped her because he's like, right, like, the fact is you're good at this, like, stop. Like, my sister cast a large shadow, but that doesn't mean you can't cast a shadow of your own. You're a lot smarter than you, like, you give yourself. Like, don't make yourself seem dumber than you are. You always do that. It's like, don't. Like, you have good ideas, you know, what she wants for the school system, because for her it's like, right, we kind of have to follow the standards, which obviously kind of vary state to state, while also kind of having a broad country status, you know, with the U.S. altogether, like just a standard, like, you know, educational system. Like I said, it varies a little from state to state, but overall there is a general countrywide, you know, standard of education. And for her, it's like, right, we can actually, like, as a whole, find, like, well, I forgot what the word she was using, but basically it's like a proper way to, like, you know, rather than it being built around, like, oh, the 5 students that are good at testing, like, we find a way to well-round students education-wise, you know? So it's like, just go in there and say that. So ultimately, when the result, well, before we even get to the results, let's talk about Maya's circumstances. Maya initially, you know, wants to run things because it's like, just to stick it to Liz a little bit, because it's like, right, it's like, whoa, you can't, you're just a child. It's like, wait, I'm an adult that you can try and get deported, but now I'm a child when it comes to me. It's like, you know, it is kind of like that same argument, you know, it's like the thing of like, right, at least here in the U.S., obviously it depends on different countries, but it's like, oh, I'm 18, I'm old enough to go off to war, but I'm not old enough to get a drink. That's a conversation. So it's kind of that same vein. It's like, you can't have it, oh, you can't, like, it's a double standard. Like, if you want me labeled as an adult so you can deport me, you can sure, it's like, oh, but that's the law. It's like, well, that's the fact of the matter. It's like, oh, you're, like, too immature. It's like, right. But if this is the way mature people handle things, maybe an immature perspective is what's needed. So just to stick it to Liz, she's running, but also she believes she can bring some change. So she gets Tyler as her campaign manager, and so they basically aim for people their age. Because of the charter, like, people who are 15 are considered adults, so kids in high school can vote. So they go to Hunter, which I thought, I guess, you know, it's like, right, I guess we kind of, yeah, they realize he's a tool and everything, but we're going to put our issues aside because you are the popular kid who's going to get us the votes we need. So making some, you know, the rules of politics, having to make, you know, shake hands, kiss babies, make some backdoor dealings type of situation. So that kind of works out, gets them, like, the votes and stuff with his popularity, the post and everything. So that kind of works out until, you know, he does the typical thing in politics. He comes back wanting more. It's like, whoa, you want my support. You want to grease my palms a little bit more. I want this, I want this, I want this. But then, like, even Maya was like, no. Even if I lose, I'd rather lose than submit to you, loser. So he puts up a thing saying, vote for me. It's like, it's not like he's going to win, but it's enough to derail, like, what Maya is doing. But then you have Tyler kind of pointing out, like, right, she's pretty tight with the elderly, because those are some of the factions that aren't getting the others aren't getting their votes. So, like, the elderly, as well as, like, the outcasts and the misfits. As a kind of misfit herself, and it's interesting, it makes sense for her to kind of rally behind those who are kind of forgotten in Greylock and be the representative. That was even something she was talking to Weston about. Kind of like what she can bring, you know, kind of a new perspective, you know, like, you know, for her, it was also something she had brought up during debates about, you know, this town should also be about second chances. Like, this place has been her second chances. She's grown because of it, and it's like, allow others to have that chance to grow as well. Like, yeah, it was a dumb prank as a kid. I did. Like, every kid has done something stupid like that. It's just her situation just got her in a monumentous amount of trouble just because of the circumstances of what was going on in Greylock at the time. Just terrible timing all around. But, so at the end, AJ wins, Danny wins, and so does Maya. But then it comes down to, like, Corinne and Liz, and like, oh, is it? And it's like, no, Liz wins. Which, to be fair, I'm glad she did, in the sense only of, so she'd shut up, because if she didn't, once again, nothing against the actress, I'm talking specifically the character, I do want to make that a point. I have to stress that sometimes too, because a lot of people will hold that against actors. I think you're a great actor if you're able to if you're able to take the words and do such a good job of bringing a despisable character to life. Like, yes, Liz has a reason. She's just, once again, going about things not the most copacetic way. She's going about it the most, like, burning bridges, douchebag way of handling things. It's like, you keep acting like a dick, not everyone's going to support you. It might be more that thing of like, oh, is it better to be feared rather than loved? It seemed like you're almost leading with like fear and assholishness rather than sincerity and love. You know, you should lead with love, but I don't know. Regardless. But my whole point is, like, she had already brought it up early in the episode of like having like a lot of the people who are running for this be people connected to Sarah. Two of her best friends, one of which lives with her brother, a former, devotee and stuff like that. So it's like, these are people all connected to Sarah. It's like, we don't need her cronies. She already has too much power. We don't want her to have too much. So she can't complain about it, because she's like, oh, I'm basically, the reign of Sarah is over because I'm going to be there, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, Corinne, nice try, but, A for effort, blah, blah, blah. It's like, shut up. You think you're hot shit. You literally only won by 2 votes. You were this close to losing, so don't think you're that great. It's like, oh, A for effort. That A for effort almost beat you. You talk all that smack and she almost won. And in fact, this Corinne isn't as down about it. It's like, because she actually thanks Danny, because it's like, right. Like, I mean, granted, kind of sucks my ex it won and I didn't. But for her, it's like, if I hadn't done that, if you hadn't pushed me, I would have regretted not sticking with it. So, thanks, So, it seems like their relationship is definitely in a better place, which is going to be complicated considering, like, oh yeah, like, Danny and Adam are such good pals now. We haven't had that conversation post Danny finding out, oh, Adam is Corinne's husband. Like, we don't know if they've talked to each other. It's like Adam came to pick up Josh. Well, I mean, he didn't pop up this episode, but like that's why he wasn't there, and that's why Corinne was by herself. So it's like, who knows what those conversations are going to look like in the future. So there's that. Sadly, Maya and her dad are still mad at Sarah. I don't think Tyler holds as much of a grudge against her with the whole thing. Because like when they were like, oh, sorry, Sarah, but this is a family thing. She's like, yeah, sure, because she was congratulating them. I'm like, I think once Maya kind of is like running things and realizing like, right, like you doing the right thing isn't always the easiest thing, because what's right for you is wrong in other regards. Because I think Sarah had the best of intentions of what she was trying to accomplish and what she was trying to do. It's just, I think Maya might get a different perspective now, of kind of like how, the world of politics and just things not being, but obviously it's also a thing of like, right, like any suggestion Sarah makes, she's probably going to fight Sarah on it a little bit more. Probably like, there is going to be like, I mean, but even AJ was like, yeah, if I need to, I'll call Sarah out on it. So like, obviously Liz has it out for Sarah. Danny, he'll be at least somewhat reasonable, but he'll also like do what's probably best for Lyden in certain regards. And Maya will probably do a lot of stuff just to be like anti-Sarah just because she's pissed at her. So it's like, she won't always be doing things necessarily for the right reason. I don't know. Maybe she'll prove me wrong, but I'm like, you're also a teenager. You're going to let your teen angst kind of get the best of you in certain regards. It's just how it is. So I don't know. I feel like that might be the case, but all of that might eventually lead to her forgiving Sarah, realizing, like, right, the complicated situation you were in. Sorry. We'll see. Like I said, Tyler was kind of looking down, so it doesn't seem like he necessarily feels the same way, but who knows? So, a lot of really, really interesting developments. Obviously, like I said, we got our officials kind of, worked in, and obviously the big thing is going to be like coming up with the new rules, and everything. Once again, I think there's going to be a lot of disagreements next episode. Some commonalities, but some other disagreements. So, but it is a conversation about moving forward in certain regards. Obviously, AJ being like, yeah, I just kind of need like, I think she said she needs like a sex cleanse after everything. And then, like, Sarah and her and Weston, so her kind of moving forward in that regard. Obviously, like I was brought up, Grover moving forward in his regard as well. So, and even, like, Corinne and Danny's relationship potentially growing in certain regards as well. So, it's going to be interesting to see ultimately where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. good day, and goodbye.